ad network versus ad server versus SSP. What's the difference for publishers? Many publishers use an ad network, an SSP, and sometimes an ad server, but if you ask which one actually decides what ad appears on the page, most people are not completely sure, and that matters. Because if you don't know which system controls your ads, you also don't really control how your revenue is generated. Hi, I'm Sergey. I work with publishers on monetization and ad operations, and I see this confusion all the time. In this video, I'll explain the real difference between ad networks, SSPs, and ad servers, and why they're not interchangeable even when they often look that way. 3 basic roles in any monetization setup. Part of the problem is that all these platforms look similar from the outside. They all show ads, have dashboards, and give you reports with revenue and impressions. So it feels like they all do the same job. But in reality, they do very different things, and they sit at different points in your monetization flow. So instead of starting with platform names, let's start with the actual jobs that need to be done. In any publisher setup, there are 3 basic roles. First, someone has to bring advertisers and campaigns. That's the demand side. Second, there has to be a place where advertisers can compete for your impressions. That's the marketplace. And third, there has to be a system that decides what actually runs on your website, on which placement, and under what rules. That's the decision layer, and these are 3 different jobs. Sometimes one platform can cover more than one role, but the roles themselves are always there in every setup. Now let's see which platforms usually play which role, how the platforms fit into these roles. Let's start with ad networks. An ad network mainly brings advertisers and ready-made campaigns. You connect to the network, you place the tags, and ads start showing on your site. From a publisher point of view, this is simple and fast. But the trade-off is control. You usually don't see which advertiser was chosen, why this ad was shown instead of another one, or how the prices are really compared. Most of those decisions are made inside the ad network. So networks are great when you want simplicity, but they don't give you much control over how your inventory is sold. Now let's look at SSPs. An SSP connects your inventory to many buyers at the same time and lets them bid in real-time auctions. So instead of getting ads from one source, you get bids from many advertisers competing for the same impression. This usually improves price competition and transparency, which is why SSPs are very popular in programmatic monetization. But here's the key point. An SSP does not control your website setup. It does not decide where ads are placed, which advertisers are allowed, or how different demand sources should be prioritized. It only participates in auctions when it is called. So again, it plays one role in the system, not all of them. And this brings us to the ad server. An ad server is the system that controls how ads are delivered on your website. It defines what placements exist, which advertisers or platforms can serve there, what priority they have, and what pricing rules apply. When a page loads, the ad server decides, should this impression go to a direct advertiser, to a network, or to an auction through an SSP? So while networks and SSPs compete for your inventory, the ad server controls how that competition happens. That is why we call it the decision layer. How these platforms work together in real life. So in practice, publishers usually don't choose between these platforms. They combine them. The difference is in how much control they want and how complex their setup actually is. For very small publishers, the setup is often just one ad network. The network brings advertisers and also decides what runs. It's simple, but there's almost no control. As publishers grow, they often add an SSP. Now they have auctions with multiple buyers, not just one demand source. This can increase competition and revenue. But at this point, something else becomes important. You now have multiple demand sources, and someone has to decide who gets priority, when auctions should run, and which placements are more valuable. That's where the ad server usually comes in. For more advanced publishers, the ad server becomes the centerpiece of their setup. Networks, SSPs, and direct advertisers are all connected to it, and the ad server controls how they compete for each impression. So the more complex your monetization becomes, the more important that decision layer becomes as well. There are common myths that cause bad setups. But because these roles are often mixed up, publishers do believe in those few common myths. One of the most popular ones is, if I use an SSP, I don't need an ad server. No, but an SSP only runs auctions. It doesn't control your placements, your priorities, or your business rules. Another common idea is, my ad network already optimizes everything for me. Networks do optimize, but for their own system, not necessarily for your overall revenue across all partners. And one more myth is, ad servers are only for huge media companies. Well, in reality, many small and medium-sized publishers use ad servers simply because they want more control, even if only one person manages the whole setup. So it's not really about size, it's about how much control you want over your monetization. How publishers should think about their stack. The best way to think about monetization tools is not by platform names, but by questions like, do I work with more than one demand source? Do I sell ads directly? Do I want to control pricing and placement rules myself? And do I want to separate premium inventory from random traffic? If the answer to most of these is no, a simple setup with an ad network or an SSP might be enough. But if the answer is yes, then you do need a system that can manage those decisions for you. And that system is the ad server. Your tools should support your business model, not define it. And this is exactly where an ad server like Epom becomes valuable in real life. It gives you one place where you can connect all of your demand, direct advertisers, ad networks, SSPs, and decide how they compete for each placement on your site. Instead of relying on fixed priorities or default network logic, you can set your own pricing rules, you can separate premium placements from random traffic, you can control which advertisers can appear where, and you can see clearly which demand sources actually bring you revenue. So you're not just serving ads, you're actively managing how your inventory is being sold. And that level of control is what allows publishers to test, optimize, and scale monetization over time. Once you look at monetization through roles, who brings demand, who runs the auction, and who makes the final decision, the whole system becomes much easier to understand. And more importantly, you can finally see where real control actually sits. For publishers who want to manage this themselves, an ad server like Epom becomes the centerpiece where all demand sources are connected and where delivery rules are set. That's where you decide how different partners compete for your inventory and how your traffic is actually sold. If you want to see how this works in a real setup, you can try the full functionality of Epom Ad Server free for 14 days and explore how placements, demand sources, and rules are configured in practice. You'll find the link in the description. Thank you for watching.